The highly anticipated return of The Walking Dead, Daryl Dixon, kicked off its third season with an episode that throws our beloved survivors into uncharted waters, literally. Season 3, Episode 1, titled Costa da Morte, Coast of Death, opens with Daryl and Carol finally reunited and determined to find their way back to America after their European adventures. The episode wastes no time reminding viewers why this duo has been a fan favorite for over a decade, showcasing the unique dynamic as they navigate a post-apocalyptic England. With hopes of returning home, the episode begins with flashes of what's to come, snippets of conversations between Daryl and Carol about finding something meaningful in Europe, mentions of England, and hints at the challenges they'll face. We see Carol has traveled a great distance to find Daryl, reinforcing the deep bond they share. These opening moments brilliantly set up the central theme of the episode: what makes somewhere feel like home? Is it a physical place, or is it simply being with the people you care about most? After the dramatic opening sequence, we find Daryl and Carol in what appears to be a deserted London. The city stands eerily quiet, with buildings reclaimed by nature and an unusual absence of walkers. The pair discuss their situation while examining canned hot dogs, a small reminder of the America they left behind. Carol contemplates saving them for a special occasion or using them for trading, highlighting how even the smallest comforts from home have become precious commodities. Their conversation reveals they were expecting a different situation in England based on what the Scots had told them, suggesting they had received information that England was supposedly under control. What's immediately striking about this episode is the atmosphere. Post-apocalyptic London is beautifully realized, with famous landmarks visible in the distance and the iconic steering wheel alongside of cars, as Daryl points out. The cinematography captures the eerie emptiness of a once bustling metropolis, now silent except for the occasional sounds of nature taking over. Signs warning of curfews and threatening to shoot people on sight hint at the chaos that must have occurred when society fell. Our protagonists soon discover they aren't as alone as they thought when they encounter walkers in an unusual state, covered in vegetation and seemingly dormant until disturbed. This unique presentation of walkers adds a fresh horror element to the show, demonstrating how the undead continue to evolve and surprise even our experienced survivors. After narrowly escaping this threat, Daryl and Carol find shelter in what appears to be a luxury apartment building. The episode takes an interesting turn with the introduction of Julian Chamberlain, a quirky British survivor who claims to be the last Englishman in England. Played brilliantly by Stephen Merchant, Julian brings a welcome combination of humor and pathos to the grim setting. His first meeting with Daryl and Carol is awkward yet endearing as he offers them food and single malt whiskey, desperately craving human connection after years of isolation. During their fireside conversations, Julian explains how England fell. First, they sealed off the Channel Tunnel to protect themselves from Europe, managing the walker threat for a while until human nature took over. People turned on each other, breaking into tribes and looking for someone to blame. When they tried to flee, they found themselves trapped on the island with no escape. Julian had once attempted to leave with friends, but after they died, he assumed the rest of the world must be the same and abandoned his plans, unable to sail alone. What's particularly poignant about Julian's story is his revelation that he spent his whole life saving money for a future that never came. Just when he felt ready to find someone to share his life with, the apocalypse happened, leaving him utterly alone. His loneliness is palpable, making his enthusiasm at finding Daryl and Carol all the more touching. When Carol suggests he could come with them to America and find a new home, we see a glimmer of hope in Julian's eyes, the possibility of belonging somewhere again. Carol's suggestion to Julian reveals an interesting dynamic in this episode. While the prompt suggests Daryl and Carol are using Julian selfishly for his boat, the episode actually shows Carol extending genuine kindness to him, offering him a chance at a new life. This nuance makes their relationship more complex than simply exploiting him for resources. Julian agrees to help them and reveals he has a boat docked on the Thames, setting up the next phase of their journey. The sequence where they prepare the boat and set sail is beautifully shot, with Julian finding purpose in guiding his new companions. His excitement is infectious as he teaches them sailing terminology and guides them through the process. When they finally set out to sea, there's a sense of triumphant adventure that's rare in this universe. Julian's calculation that they could reach North America in 11 to 17 days brings a surge of hope, something in short supply in the world of The Walking Dead. At sea, we get intimate moments between our characters. Julian shares his insecurities about his sailing abilities, having failed at the Royal Naval College while others breezed through it. Daryl, in a moment of characteristic gruff encouragement, points out that Julian is still standing while those others are now squid, Julian's rhyming slang for the dead. This moment of connection between the men highlights how survival has little to do with pre-apocalypse credentials and more to do with adaptability and resilience. The peaceful sailing doesn't last long, however, as a violent storm approaches. The tense sequence that follows is a masterclass in building dread, with thunder crashing and waves rocking the boat violently. Julian is struck by the boom while trying to secure the sails, suffering a serious injury. The storm sequence is visually stunning and genuinely frightening, presenting a threat that can't be fought with knives or crossbows, nature itself becoming an enemy more terrifying than any walker horde. As the storm rages, Carol and Daryl have a heart-wrenching conversation below deck. Carol admits how much it means to have found Daryl, while he stubbornly refuses to acknowledge the danger they're in, insisting they'll make it home. This moment beautifully captures their relationship, Carol open with her feelings, Daryl deflecting with determination but clearly caring deeply. Their discussion about the hot dogs becomes a symbol of hope, something to look forward to when they finally reach home. The storm sequence ends with a blackout, and we next see Daryl waking up on a beach, disoriented and calling for Carol. The boat has been wrecked and they've washed ashore somewhere unknown. When Daryl finds Carol, she's injured but alive. The pair then make the grim discovery that Julian didn't survive. He's turned, forcing Daryl to put him down. This tragic end for Julian is particularly poignant given how briefly he experienced connection before his death. The hope he represented, both for himself and as their guide home, is cruelly snuffed out. After finding shelter in a cave, Daryl tends to Carol's injuries. She has metal embedded in her shoulder that needs to be removed, leading to an intense scene where Daryl performs impromptu surgery with a knife heated in the fire. The pain and vulnerability Carol displays here is a stark reminder that despite her toughness, she's still human and fragile. The sequence is difficult to watch but beautifully performed, showcasing the trust between these two characters who have been through so much together. The episode takes another turn when Daryl and Carol are awakened by sounds outside their shelter. Peering out, they see riders on horseback passing by, suggesting they've encountered another community. Later, they discover a sign revealing they've washed up on the Costa de la Muerte, the coast of death in Spain. The irony isn't lost on them. They've barely made any progress toward America, ending up back in continental Europe. As they explore their surroundings, they encounter more walkers in unusual circumstances, suspended from trees in what appears to be some kind of ritual or warning. This unsettling sight establishes that wherever they've landed has its own rules and dangers, setting up the conflict for the season ahead. When Carol's condition worsens, Daryl becomes increasingly concerned. Her fever and disorientation suggest her wound may be infected, adding urgency to their need to find help. The episode ends with a touching scene between Daryl and Carol as he tries to keep her awake and alert despite her deteriorating condition. They play I Spy, a childish game that underscores the depth of their relationship. They can find moments of lightness even in the darkest situations. As Carol drifts in and out of consciousness, Daryl looks increasingly worried, and the scene cuts to morning with Daryl waking to find Carol missing. The final moments show Daryl frantically searching for her as vehicles approach in the distance, setting up the next episode's conflict. What makes Costa de Morte such a strong season opener is how it balances the intimate character moments with spectacular set pieces. The storm at sea, the walker-infested London apartments, and the eerie Costa de la Muerta all provide visually striking backgrounds for the emotional journey of our characters. The production values are impressive, particularly considering the challenge of depicting post-apocalyptic London and a violent storm at sea. The episode also excels in its thematic richness. Beyond the obvious quest to get home, it explores what home truly means. For Julian, home was England, but without people to share it with, it became a beautiful prison. For Carol, home seems to be wherever Daryl is, as evidenced by her crossing continents to find him. And for Daryl, there's a sense that he's still searching for where he truly belongs. The introduction and quick loss of Julian serves multiple narrative purposes. His loneliness contrasts with Daryl and Carol's deep bond, emphasizing how fortunate they are to have each other. His death also reinforces the cruel reality of their world. Hope is precious and fragile. Most importantly, his loss means Daryl and Carol must now face this strange new territory without a guide, making their situation even more precarious. By the episode's end, we're left with several compelling questions. Who are the riders Daryl saw? What happened to Carol? Will they ever find their way back to America? The Coast of Death proves an apt setting and metaphor. Our heroes have survived one deadly journey, only to find themselves at the beginning of another, possibly even more dangerous one. Costa de Morte sets a high bar for the season, promising a story that will continue to test Daryl and Carol's resilience and their bond. As they face new challenges in this unfamiliar territory, viewers can expect the exploration of themes that have always been at the heart of The Walking Dead: survival, humanity, community, and the never-ending search for a place to call home. If this premiere is any indication, Season 3 of The Walking Dead Daryl Dixon will be a thrilling and emotionally resonant journey through yet another corner of this apocalyptic world.